Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
It's time for today's Lucky Land horoscope with Victoria Cash.
Life's gotten mundane, so shake up the daily routine and be adventurous with a trip to Lucky Land. You know what they say. Your chance to win starts with a spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com to play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey everybody, it's Weird Islanders, the podcast, back once again. My name is Dan. That is Mike. Mike, this is our 50th episode. It is quite a milestone for any podcast, let alone a spinoff. How are you going to choose to celebrate this incredible milestone that we have achieved here at Weird Islanders, the podcast?
Yeah, 50th episode and third season finale, right? This is the third
Yes.
season? So, yeah, third season of a podcast talking about the likes of the illuminous careers of Shane Prince or Brian Ralston. And today's a monumental day because it is our 50th episode, but it's also a first of an annual tradition.
Yes.
So that's it's always excited to start a new tradition.
Yeah.
The winner of tonight's new tradition, a new award. He's won other awards, but I think this one might go up there with one very specific one. It'll be a neck and neck. I don't want to give away who it is.
Yeah.
Saying which award he's won before, but I think that this one and that one are kind of neck and neck in terms of impact, cultural impact on the greater good.
They should both go on his mantle for sure. But did you ever think that a podcast idea born out of boredom during a pandemic era shutdown would have become the cultural phenomenon that it has with Weird Islanders, the podcast? And we have people that I think like this more than anxiety, which is kind of funny considering that it had quite a head start. But can you imagine that we have achieved all of this success with an idea as stupid as Weird Islanders, the podcast?
No, I actually can't. It really tells you. We talk about it's a theme of the fan base and a theme of the show is just how in the weeds and Islander fans are out of necessity, and also because Islander fans, for the most part, the Islanders are their number one team. So they end up getting attached to different kinds of cult heroes and disappointed by guys who come and go, and so I'm not surprised that it worked. I've never seen the ratings or the reviews. I've never seen what the only time we've ever been in the New York Times was for our other podcast, and so I haven't I don't know if what the Times says about Weird Islanders. I don't know if they ever caught the episode about the Europeans who didn't want to come here and then did, but I think they'd really like that one. Maybe they'll start there.
If anybody listening works for the New York Times and wants to do an expose on us, please let us know. We're here.
Yeah,
You know where to find
us. But yeah, I think it's a testament to the fan base more than anything that an idea like this for a team like this that has had very I guess we could just call it zero success in the last 40 years. I mean, I know there's been some highs, but they haven't won in 40 years, and it's mostly been weird stuff. So I guess maybe that's why it works.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of used to it now. But like you said, this is a monumental episode. It's a big one. We're going to be starting an annual tradition. And to do that, we wanted to do it right. We wanted to bring in somebody that understands this concept as well as anybody. And he's one of our favorite guys to talk to. And of course, I'll know him as the co-host of Nassaumen Hockey Podcast. Here's our friend, Jon Zella. John, how are you this evening?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back. Nassaumen hasn't recorded in a while for various reasons. And we haven't recorded our season finale. So I have both nothing and everything to say. So I'm going to try to narrow it down tonight the best that I can.
I'm excited for it. One of the reasons why you guys are on a bit of hiatus is that your basement is under quite a bit of construction right now. So I'm assuming that you guys will be back on the ice for training camp in September. Is that true?
That's the goal. Maybe a little bit earlier to get our legs under us. Some early training. It's early off season for us, so we some injuries and some other things. So we got to get back to it.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how your new downstairs studio looks. It'd be pretty cool. I got so used to seeing how you and James's setup is in the video that I'm looking forward to seeing a new setup now.
Yeah, I'm excited to get it. My Islander stuff back on the wall. It was a little sad to take it all down, and it coincided with the end of the season. It felt very weird.
You had your own breakout day,
right? Yeah,
you should have brought in some media, told people that you want to stay, and your ultimate goal is to win a cup here, and you feel that you're close, and you would have had yourself your own little breakout day.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. I was going to say it probably felt a little bit like Nassau Coliseum closing again, like all the stuff. They're taking all the stuff down so they can move again. But
yeah, because I have the retirement banners of the Islanders. It felt a little bit like that because I just got it up. I just moved here, so all that was I just put it up. I don't know, 8-9 months ago. So to take it all down felt a little sad, but it's in a box. I can go look at it, I suppose, and it'll make me it'll pressure me to finish this project sooner than later.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm looking forward to the new setup. Good luck, because God knows I would not undertake that sort of construction project. But I wish you nothing but luck, and we'll see how it goes. But for now, we take your attention off of the home construction, and we turn it to our weirdest Islander of the year. This is an idea given to us in a mailbag episode at Islanders Anxiety by our friend Will Forthman, and this is genius. And so we decided to make this its own thing. I put up a poll over at the Islanders Anxiety Patreon. Thank you so much to the 110 folks who voted. It's a good sample size, a good voting block. And I think the results are fair here. We're going to go through a bunch of different levels of players here before introducing our weirdest Island of the year and the trophy that we'll be giving out as well, named after another very, very weird Islander. But we want to start with the honorable mentions here. These were the 3 lowest vote getters. We're not going to spend a ton of time talking about them, but because they played less than 50 games this year with the Islanders, they were on the ballot, and they all have something in common, which is that they spent more time in Bridgeport than they did on the Islanders. But we have Kyle McLean, who got 1 vote, Grant Hutton, who got 2, and Ruslan Ishakov, who got 4. I think we can safely say that we hope that probably 2 of these guys are going to be Islanders next year. The other guy we'll get to in a minute, but John, I'll start with you. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not weird at all, and 10 being, oh my God, this is so weird, get me out of here. how weird do you think it's going to be for Kyle McLean to be an Islander next year if his dad, John, is fired from his position as an assistant coach for the Islanders after presiding over one of the worst power plays and penalty kills in the entire league? I forget which one he does, but they were both terrible. So how weird do you think that'll be for young Kyle McLean?
Oh, wow. I did not really know where you were going to go with that question. I think that's pretty weird. I'm going to go figure skating score at 7.3. I think that'll be hard. He was so good this year. He had a lot of jump. Casey Cizikas Jr. So yeah, I think that'll be a little weird for him for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, he made a good first impression coming up from Bridgeport, very much like Casey Cizikas. He had 4 goals and 5 assists and 9 points in 32 games played. And he actually had a goal in the playoffs, which was really impressive as well. What's funny is that he only had 22 points in 43 games for Bridgeport, and he didn't strike a lot of people as like the guy to call up. But when, your depth is getting kind of dinged a little bit with injuries, a lot of people out there were saying they should call up Kyle McLean. He looks great despite, not really doing a ton of scoring. And they were right. He looked fantastic. Ruslan Ishakov got a few votes here. It was a little bit weird to see him. He only got 1 assist in his 1 game for the Islanders, which was the last game of the season. But in Bridgeport, it was spectacular. 69 games, 18 goals, 32 assists, 50 points. That's pretty great. He is 5'8", which is not the ideal height for an NHL player. I think Hockey DB had him at 5'8". Hockey Reference has him at 5'9". I'm sure he tells all of his dates that he's 5'10" or 5'11". But either way, he's little and he looks it. But I think he can make a run of it here if the Islanders do give him a chance. Mike, where do you think Ruslan will end up next year? Do you think he starts with the Islanders, or do you think he'll be in Bridgeport, or do you think that the KHL rumors are true and he'll just go back to his homeland and play over there?
I think he'll at least be in training camp and it'll go from there. I think that'd be my guess. I thought it was great that he ended up playing in a playoff game, which is just outrageous.
That's true.
I think just talking about the concept of the show and Weird Islanders, I would say that on this list, Kyle McLean is clearly on his way to not being a Weird Islander, and of course that makes us sad. But makes us happy because he's, as John saying, like he's turned into Casey Cizikas Jr. The crazy thing about Kyle McLean, by the way, this is something I didn't realize until just now. I knew his numbers, like his production numbers, weren't great in the minors, but he never scored over 20 goals in junior either. He topped out at 11 in the AHL. So it sounds weird to say it, and I don't mean it to come off like this, but you really wonder if John McLean wasn't his dad, like where he'd be. He'd probably be in, the second division in like Germany or something. I was
going to say Europe,
right?
Probably.
But at the same time, I think that's even more of a testament to him. Is like he's this good a player despite having that kind of production, when those numbers in his past, which is crazy. I mean, the guy is he became a lot of people's favorite Islander, or one of their favorite Islanders, so quickly, and just so very, very much on his way to not being a Weird Islander. Whereas Ishkakov, like it's anybody's guess where this guy goes. He could end up being, like you said, in the KHL, and we never hear from him again. He could be someone that we reference, tongue in cheek, throughout the history as a. He's putting up amazing numbers in the KHL, like wonder what it could be. Or he could be on the team next year, be a productive player, or he could be on the team, play a couple weeks, and then not work out and get sent down and be like, I want to go home.
Right.
So he where he goes, I've got no idea. So it's of the 3 of these guys in the honorable mention list that you're gonna to talk about, McLean is clearly, on one path. Ishakov is at a fork in the road, and then the third guy, I'm pretty sure, we can say that he would have ended up on the Weird Islander list, and I don't know if anybody would have ever picked him.
No. Grant Hutton is our other honorable mention. He's already a Weird Islander. This guy has been with the Islanders for 2 seasons. He's got 18 games played over that time. Played with them last year. He played 2 games this year, which honestly I did not remember. He has had 1 goal in that time, which is pretty impressive. He was one of the UBS, that opening season at UBS Arena where everybody who played in those first few games was with the Bridgeport Islanders that year. So that right there makes him a weird Islanders legend. But my thing about Grant Hutton is that this man has played over the course of the last several seasons 227 games for the Bridgeport Islanders / Sound Tigers organization. That is a hard run, man. Like that 227 AHL games, that's tough. This is after spending, 4 seasons playing college hockey too. So like this guy may never pan out as an Islander or an NHLer at all, but that right there, actually, I got to give it up to you. Like, God bless this man. Seriously, like put some respect on Grant Hutton's name when you talk about it, because this man has logged some hard minutes, some hard bus rides between Hartford, Providence, Utica, Albany, God knows where else the Bridgeport team has played. But I was pretty shocked by that. I was like, holy crap, 227 games in the AHL. That's a lot, dude. John, do you have anything at all to say about Grant Hutton, defenseman for Bridgeport / the Islanders, before we move on to our actual finishers?
He's to use a Americism. He's like a quadruple A player. Like he's just kind of, he's Mayfield light, but he doesn't really have that NHL kind of instinct that you really want. Like Mayfield isn't always ideal either, but Hutton is like a step below that. And that's kind of where, I mean, that's why he's played so long in the AHL. It's not like other teams are trying to go after him. And Lord knows there were some really bad teams that probably could have just used a warm body at some point. And, I think Lamoriello, I forget what his deal is. Again, because I haven't thought about him all that much on fortunately, unfortunately, depending on who you are. So he keeps getting re-signed and he sticks around and he's waiting for his chance that after Mayfield signed his 6 or 7 year deal, I was kind of surprised Hutton was around. And then when he was injured, someone else we'll talk about later winds up getting in the mix in that spot. And so you're like, okay, Hutton's really not going to be in the mix here. And just on McLean really quick, he's what I imagine Cole Bardreau would have turned out like if he had been given a shot. Right. Yeah. So talk about a weird Islander. I don't know if anyone's taken him yet. That's a really good one. I'll never forget his goal against, I believe, Ottawa.
That's right.
That it was a penalty shot. It was.
I was there. I was at Barclays when that happened.
So he, talking about McLean getting a shot and being maybe also, quadruple A player and just getting a longer term opportunity. Bardreau really never got a shot with the Islanders. I don't think he's with the organization anymore. But that's, just to kind of, both of those players are maybe in the same group. But McLean, when he did get an opportunity, it was a little bit longer. He kind of ran with it. Where Hutton, I mean, he was on Bridgeport Islanders in the NHL, and they were getting their ass kicked. So it's a little bit different.
Cole Bardreau is still with Bridgeport. He played 70 games with them this year. So, but yeah, I was surprised to find that out myself. But yeah, no, you're right. That's a good point. Mike, anything on Grant Hutton or Kyle McLean or Ruslan Ishakov before we move on to our 3 finalists?
Not too much more on Hutton. I think he's, you're right. He's the kind of guy that will likely be just around the North American pro game, you think, for a while. I don't think it's going to be a Parker Wotherspoon situation where you're just laughing to yourself where he's like getting big minutes in round 1 and round 2 for the Bruins. But he's an Indiana native, Grant Hutton, which I found funny. And I will read to you a couple of players that he made his NHL debut alongside with on November 21st, 2021, which is, of course, when UBS Arena opened. Right. And you can tell me how many this is the Weird Islanders game of all time. Andy Andrioff. I think Kiefer Bellows probably played too many games, but he was there. So was Zdeno Chara in his own weird way. Of course, Grant Hutton, Richard Panik, Robin Salo, the who knows how his career is going to end up, Oliver Wahlstrom. And then, of course, the second game, it got even crazier because Paul Ledoux was called up. I think Dennis Chalowski was there. So it was, wow. Yeah, Grant Hutton, his to make an NHL debut, opening up a building that was so anticipated, with the Islanders' first line being something, I think it was Richard Panik, Barzal, and Beauvillier. That's tough, but yeah, Grant Hutton. I wouldn't be shocked if he's like an Aaron Ness type for some organization, like you know how Hershey has just like kept Aaron Ness forever now. They're like, this is a good, you know, AHL pro guy who he can teach young defensemen how to be professionals. I think Grant Hutton, that's probably where his career is going. But yeah, amazing that the you know, Jordan Eberle, his number goes to Grant Hutton, which was what a transition that was.
Definitely. Don't forget Otto Koivula, by the way, also in the third game there at UBC.
Oh yes,
another weird Islander. But congrats to all these guys. You have now been honorably mentioned, and again, thanks to everybody who voted for these guys. Now we get to our finalists, and when I said on Islanders Anxiety the other day that I thought that this was going to come down to a two-man race, one of the guys that I was thinking of ended up coming in third. And I think this is actually sort of a microcosm for this man's entire career, because all he manages to do is get people's hopes up and then disappoint them. And that would be Julien Gauthier, who came in third. He had 13 votes. That's 12% of the vote. Believe it or not, this man played 27 games for the Islanders this year, which is not nothing. Like, that's a lot of games, 27 games. And he had 9 points, 5 goals, and 4 assists. He had a 2-goal game against the Caps, which was kind of crazy. Like, I couldn't believe I could completely erase this game from my memory.
Halfway through the third, still a 2-0 lead for the Islanders. Horvat overskated initially. Fires that pass through, a firm one to Pajot. Rebound, score! Gauthier, 3-0. That's a big goal for the New York Islanders.
Yeah, and it starts in the defensive zone with the defenseman who, we've talked about the change in the defense with just the addition of a couple of guys that allowed the Islanders to be a little bit more patient with their D-to-D passes. And Horvat's going to get this puck on the wing. He's going to show patience, waits, and sees Pajot, who came off the bench, good middle to the inside. And Gauthier, why not come down the middle of the ice? Brendan, the puck might come to you. And you talk about taking dead aim. Look at Horvat waiting, and there's Paj coming to the middle of the ice.
And if JG doesn't go to the net after his shot there, Butch, do you agree with me that nothing's happening there? Because the play, Nick Jensen's going to turn around and get that puck. He's got to honor Pajot, who's got a whale of a game so far, and a juicy one for Julien Gauthier.
Yeah, because you don't know where the rebound's going, right?
Here's a chance for the Capitals to come right back, and it was Gauthier who helped break that one up in a 2-on-1. Pajot and Gauthier. Pajot, Gauthier, scores! Julien Gauthier, a couple of goals in 18 seconds.
My goodness. Where's the sign-up list to play with Pajot? Because no question he's a passer. Quick up again by the Islanders. I believe that was Bolduc or Riley. But look at this pass, and what a good move. Didn't panic, didn't shoot it right away. He says, no, I'm going to my backhand. Pajot hung on to it, and then right underneath the pad. Beautiful goal by Gauthier.
If you want to stay in the lineup, you can do the little things, or you can score 2 goals and have an assist at 3-point night. That's going to keep you in as well.
Didn't I say that he needed to be noticed, Thomas?
Yeah, he's
early in the game. He's got everybody's attention now, doesn't he?
He had 9 points for the Islanders. He had 10 points in 17 games for Bridgeport. So, like, it was kind of, you know, it's funny that this guy, I think he was scratched a lot for Bridgeport, but this guy's career is just an incredible kind of parade of teams who expect a lot from him and just they don't get it. And when you wonder, like, why do they do that? Well, if Ruslan Ishakov is not ideal at 5'8", Julien Gauthier is 6'4". And that's going to buy you a lot of time in the NHL in particular. John, where were you on July 5th, 2023, when the Islanders signed Julien Gauthier to a 2-year one-way deal that some might have said implied the Islanders plan to keep him on the roster?
I believe that's the day I closed on my house. So I don't know. I don't know that I was paying attention to it, honestly.
What?
Hold on, I
So
gotta leave to take a call. I think Julie Gauthier is
Yeah.
coming to the Islanders. Just gonna wait.
yeah, James was blowing up my phone. We had an emergency episode right from my car. So I just
funny.
made the lawyer wait. No, I mean it was one of those. You had to look up who he was, and you kind of heard the name, and it was. It's one of those things that we'll go back and look at Lamoriello's tenure, and this is just one of those players. It was like the epitome of kind of his signings a little bit. Just like, is this maybe that'll work out? Is it? And it just I guess Garth Snow was like that too. It felt very maybe it was more Garth Snow than Lamoriello. Just I don't know who this guy is. He played for the Rangers. He's been around. Like, heard he's fast. Then you see the Hyatt clip, and you're like, I can get excited about this, and then that was really the end of it.
That's pretty funny. Mike, you had a lot to say about Gauthier when the Islanders signed him, and I think we talked about him a number of times on Anxiety, and then he just seemed to disappear. Like as soon as he was removed, which came right after Patrick Waugh was hired, I just erased this guy's entire existence from my memory. And I find that kind of funny that he was waived. Nobody picked him up. He went to Bridgeport, and that was it. And we never heard from him again. There was never a specter of him getting called up again. Yeah. I don't remember anybody asking about it again. And I certainly forgot about it. And I feel like you did too.
Yeah. And he had to get sent down and waived.
Yeah.
Cause if I had to watch him not gain the red line one more time and then ice the puck, even though there was no pressure on him, I was going to waive him myself. I was going to start filing the paperwork. It was the Julien Gauthier experience went exactly, I think, as everybody expected it to. Like you said, there were some highs. He had that goal like right off a draw.
Yeah.
Play in the Islanders zone. One thing they their Panthers defense is going to be aggressive, but they.
Oh, and a goal right off the faceoff. Gauthier beats Stolars. It's 4-2. That's a tough one for the Panthers to give up.
And this is how quickly it happens. Right, Horvat wins the draw, and Gauthier fires that puck. The puck was on edge. Look at it, goes right. It's flat on the blade of the stick. Gauthier.
And you're like, okay, if he can just learn how to not do dumb stuff on the ice, he can be an asset here, and he just couldn't. So I think I will say I did underestimate him when they signed him, because people are like, oh, maybe this guy is going to jack up the top six. He gives some more speed. He could perhaps play with, Nelson and Palmieri or Barzal and Horvat because he could keep up, whatever. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that this guy's just not going to make the team out of camp, and you're going to waive him. It turns out it was kind of neither. And he was just, you have to be a special kind of player to be a poor man's Pierre Engvall.
Wow.
I think that's probably what he is.
I would have said Josh Bailey, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, also true.
Yeah, he's just like, but Engvall and Gauthier is like more, he's thicker, but they're both big bodies, fast, and you could just see it. You're like, wow, these guys are just gifted from the gods. They look like they were chiseled. I think Gauthier's dad was like a professional wrestler, and Engvall is just one of the most handsome athletes in professional sports, bar none. And you're just like, these guys are so gifted, but they just haven't been able to completely put it together. Gauthier is I think a lot further away from putting it together than Engvall. I would say that. But yeah, so the Julien Gauthier experience is gone, just as you'd imagine. And I think he has, I'm pretty sure he's got another year on his. Yeah, he does. Him and Hudson Fasching both have another year on their contract.
Man.
At under $800,000, so it's easily variable. And I wouldn't be shocked if neither one of them play another game with the big club.
Gauthier for me wasn't as weird as he was forgettable. So I like that both of you kind of started with that, where you kind of forgot about it. It wasn't weird that he was there. It felt like, okay, they had to do something. They needed some kind of depth. I guess he is a guy. That's fine. But yeah, Dan, I 100% agree. He was there and then he wasn't, and he come back and like, oh, I didn't even remember he was here. That's strange.
And then again, to be going through videos and be like, holy crap, this guy scored twice in 18 seconds and against the Caps in a big game, and I completely forgot about it. So, but Mike is 100% right. Like he's very much on the Engvall scale, and I guess on the Bailey scale too, where you think, man, why isn't this guy doing more? Why aren't they getting more from this guy? And it's just like, that's it. And I guarantee you that fans of the Hurricanes, the Rangers, and the Senators, and whoever Julien Gauthier plays after playing for the Islanders will probably say the same thing. Like, man, what is it about this guy? Eventually, the book will be out and people will kind of know, but we'll see. I mean, I hold no ill will towards him. Remembering that Hudson Fasching is also a guy, kind of bothers me too. But I don't know. With Fasching, we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll find his form again. But I did find it funny. I mean, the funniest thing to me about this whole thing is that I could have swore that Gauthier was going to push our winner, and it was going to be like a tight race. And right from the get-go, he just didn't have the votes, and I was a little bit shocked. So apparently nobody else thought that much about Julien Gauthier this season either. But he did pick up 13. So you 13 people that voted for Julien Gauthier, I was still on the same wavelength as you. But he is indeed our third place winner of the Weird Islander of the Year.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
The man who came in second place for Weird Islander of the Year is another guy that I think people kind of mostly forgot about, but he got into a game that was a monumental game and a milestone game for one goalie. It just wasn't him, and it just wasn't the guy he replaced either. Ken Appleby got 29 votes, 26% of the entire vote. Played one game with the Islanders. No, he didn't win, didn't lose. His career in the NHL is 3 games played. With one loss in the books from when he was with the Devils. He spent many years in the Devils organization, bounced around to AHL deals, NHL deals. He would sign with Manitoba, get an NHL deal with Winnipeg. He signed with an AHL deal with Milwaukee. He got an NHL deal with Nashville. I don't think he played for either of those two teams. And he actually ended up getting signed by the Islanders after signing an AHL deal with Bridgeport. So this guy, and he's played a ton of games in the ECHL as well. So this guy knows all about the minors. And in fact, in Bridgeport, he finished with 15 wins, 20 losses, 6 overtime losses in 43 games. In Worcester, for the ECHL's Railers, he had 59 games played, 28 wins, 25 losses, 3 overtime losses. So he's a workhorse guy in the minors. But in the NHL, he has only put together 4 games. And his one game as an Islander is a game that nobody wants to remember, and is a game that, Mike, I know you and I talked about extensively on Anxiety. because we were pissed off at this game before it even happened. And then we were just as pissed off after it happened. His one game was on January 15th in Minnesota. The Islanders lost 5-0. And Marc-Andre Fleury became the second winningest goalie in NHL history, making 21 saves and a shutout for his 552nd win. Appleby came in for relief of Ilya Sorokin, gave up 2 goals on 8 shots. And everybody was happy for Marc-Andre Fleury, except for us and probably Ken Appleby. And so that's the Ken Appleby story. That's a lot for a guy who played one game for the Islanders. Mike, where do you come out on Ken Appleby, New York Islander? I mean, I doubt he'll be back. He is a UFA at the end of the year, but
yeah,
this is a pretty bizarre story for a guy who played not even one game, 20 minutes as an Islander. That's it.
The most bizarre part of his story to me was there was a rumor that went around about right around the expansion draft for the Kraken, that the Islanders had because the Islanders re-signed Appleby like very weirdly. I don't think they had announced they hadn't announced like anything else, right? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, by the way, Ken Appleby signed, and there was a rumor going around, according to Elliot Friedman, that the Islanders were like up to some sort of like loophole with the Kraken, where the Kraken were gonna select Ken Appleby or something, and there's this like crazy rumor going around that like they were gonna foist Appleby to the Kraken with, I don't know, some picks or something. I just remember listening to that episode. I remember where I was when Friedge was talking about it. I was at a traffic light, and I'm like, where's he going with this? Did he just say Ken Appleby? So I was like, is he gonna say Varlamov's name or something? And he's like, yeah, the Islanders goaltender a guy by the name of Ken Appleby. And I'm like, what? But yeah, then he, like you said, he gets into that one game, and he was on the bench quite a bit during that stretch when Varlamov was hurt, and the Islanders made Sorokin empty the tank, which of course didn't work out all that great. And that game against the Wild was absolutely brutal. The Islanders had a season where it felt like a lot of people were hitting milestones against them. And most of them were villains, right? Tavares and then Fleury. So, Ken Appleby's Islanders experience. I think he'll be the type of guy that shows up at an alumni night, 5 or 6 years from now. It's one of those one game specials. But yeah, good for him, man. He got to play in the NHL and sit on the bench for quite a bit. So, I would say, like, by definition of the word weird. If you were just looking at this in the Merriam Webster's version of Weird Islanders, I think Ken Appleby is probably the weirdest one on this list.
Yeah.
His journey and his Islander career is going to end up being technically the weirdest. But for how we look at it, it is. I think he's right to finish third here.
Yeah. John, when the Islanders signed Appleby after all of his years in the Devils organization, did James give you any intel? Was he like, oh, this guy's not going to do much for the Islanders? Or I think he may have predated him, but
maybe. I think we glossed over it because it was, Varlamov and Sorokin were going to be the two goalies, and even barring an injury, it really didn't matter. Mike Dunham could come back and sit on the bench. It really didn't matter. Or Chris Terreri or whoever was around the Islanders could come sit on the bench, and one of those two goalies was going to play. It was surprising that Appleby got a game, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dan, I can't remember if I filled in for Mike on anxiety or you filled in for James on Nassaumen. Either way, we spoke the day before this game, and I joked with you and asked if you wanted to give an early congratulations to Fleury for breaking the wins record.
That's right. Yeah, no, I was guessing on your show. That's right, because that's when I was like, oh shit, they're going to lose this game.
Yeah, so you said that, and I said I'll go a step further. Early congratulations. I didn't even think of that.
Right.
And yeah, that's my Ken Appleby memory. I think this was at a point where it would have been really good for them any one of their ridiculous losses would have been nice for them to win, but I think this one in particular, there was meaning behind it in some way, and they 5-0 was pretty on par for the Islanders this season. So I think I just tried to get it out of my memory, and then Ken Appleby went with it.
Yeah, definitely. This was a tough one. I remember because I now you're jogging my memory. I didn't realize that Fleury was that close and that the Islanders were up next for him. And I was like, oh, they're definitely going to lose that game now. And this was still under Lane Lambert. And so this was probably, I think, the road trip just before he got fired, because they would lose in Winnipeg, I think, a night later, or they won the game in Winnipeg, and then they lost in Chicago, and then that was it for Lambert. So this was when they were losing these ridiculous games and just had no juice, no energy, no nothing, and it was really painful to watch. And that game in particular was like, you felt like the entire NHL and hockey fans everywhere were basically dancing on the Islanders' heads, and it was like, I couldn't even enjoy the fact that this guy Ken Appleby got into a game in this most bizarre of circumstances, because I was so angry. But no, you were right. You were the one who put that in my head, and I mean, obviously we were right. So, but it was an incredibly tough one. But hey, congratulations to Ken Appleby for getting into a game, so he can say he was there. He got his jersey, I'm sure, of his own, and I don't think he'll be back. The Islanders having signed Marcus Högberg, which Mike and I talked about on the last episode of Anxiety. So I think that's probably about it. But, I mean, he did pretty well for the ECHL's Railers, so maybe he'll stick in Worcester for a while. We'll see. But the time has come to celebrate the man who is our first ever Weird Islander of the Year. But first, we need to name the trophy. Now, we put out a couple of options there. The votes were everywhere, quite frankly. Some very, very good options in there. But one name, I should say, got 2 additional votes. And that was the great Don Cutts. And so we have decided that this is going to be the Don Cutts Trophy for Weird Islander of the Year. Mike, this was your choice. How great do you feel for Don Cutts and the Islanders that this is going to be the Don Cutts Trophy going forward?
Yeah, I hope it gets to Don Cutts because he became an Islanders cult hero without playing a game for the Islanders, which is, it takes something really special to do that. And his performance at Alumni Weekend was truly special. Him and perhaps the opposite, the unweirdest Islander of all time, Josh Bailey, together for a picture at some Manhattan bar, just the two of them. And all of us, I don't know care whose group chat you were in, and we're all in Islander group chats, and everybody saw that picture. It was going around, and absolutely nobody had any idea who this guy was.
Right.
And finally, like, word probably, the caption and stuff, word got out, and people started to piece together. Not only does nobody ever remember him playing for the Islanders, it's because he never played for the Islanders. And that is so special. And I'm so happy that Don Cutts came to Alumni Night and had the kind of just blasé attitude towards, yeah, of course, like, I got invited, I'll show up. Sounds like a good time. Right. It was a good time. I'd love for him to hear about that we are naming this trophy in his honor, because it does come from a place of true love. Like, this is an absolute, it's not just an honor for him to be named, the trophy to be named after him, but it's an honor for us to name the trophy as well. Like, this guy rocks. I can't get enough of him. I think that picture is one of my favorite Islander pictures of all time. So to Don Cutts, thank you so much for coming into our lives. Thank you to the Islanders for doing Alumni Night the way that you do it now, to make sure that folks like Don Cutts have the opportunity to find their way into our lives, because I've never heard his name before. He wasn't on our list, which takes something special. So Don, you broke Weird Islanders, and that's why you get to have the trophy named after you.
Yeah, it is quite something to become a cult hero of a team that you did not play for. 30 years or whatever after it was that you were briefly their property. So Don Cutts, you're a special man. The Islanders obviously a very special team, and again, sincerely, thank you for making these guys, bringing these guys back. And it is with great pleasure that we announce the first ever winner of the Don Cutts Trophy for Weird Islander of the Year. John, as our special guest, will you please announce the winner of this prestigious trophy for the first time ever?
Mr. Robert Ortuzzo.
Incredible. Round of applause, everybody. Incredible. Robert Bortuzzo, perhaps the runaway winner right off the bat here. But this man has earned this trophy. He deserves this trophy. And it's not just for this year, too. Like, this is a story going back at least one season. Bortuzzo took away 61% of the votes. It's 55%. That's a lot. And, again, well-deserved. 0 points in the regular season, but one enormous point in the playoffs that we'll talk about in a minute. 560 games played, 20 goals, 54 assists, 74 points for the Penguins, the Blues, with whom he won a cup in 2019. And obviously now with the Islanders, he's 35 years old. He's going to be a UFA at the end of the season. This may be the only time we get to talk to him. But didn't just start here. Bortuzzo was already kind of a known quantity for us, for his years with the Penguins. But back in December of 2022, he put a big hit on Adam Pelech, the end boards, while playing with the Blues. And
the Islanders have had their chances. They're just not able to, whether it's solve grace or battle through the pressure in front of the net, or just bear down on those chances.
That's not good, as Adam Pelech went down awkwardly into the boards, kind of getting his head and neck against the wall while the rest of his body went down to the ice. There was a penalty called on the play against Bortuzzo. And Pelech, who is still down on a knee, will wait for Damien Hess, the athletic trainer, to come talk to him.
Yeah, you're getting up on his feet now. Seems to be okay. You got to pay attention to him in case he gets a little dizzy. And he's not feeling well right now. No question about that. And
41 has 2 minutes for roughing.
Oh, and there you see, he's unsteady on his feet. I mean, he slammed his head hard into the wall, and I think the ice as well. And he is being helped towards the Islander dressing room.
Yeah, he looks like he's dazed quite a bit. Almost get the sense he doesn't know where he is, Brendan, and just watching his reaction. And that's a big loss right now for the Islanders. I mean, down 4 goals, but that's the more important scenario right now is Adam Pelech, the best defenseman that the Islanders have.
Pelech was woozy. He left the ice and would miss a month. It was one of a string of head injuries for poor Adam Pelech, and he hasn't really, he's shown signs, but hasn't really recovered all that much, in the year or so. John, do you have any recognition of this hit at all? I mean, was this something that came into your mind when they acquired Bortuzzo a year later?
I wondered if they had a conversation. And I wonder that anytime a player comes into an organization after, I imagine anybody going to, say, the Boston Bruins and have to deal with Brad Marchand.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's like, that might be a little awkward. But yeah, I mean, that one in particular, like you said, it was in the beginning of a long string of injuries for Adam Pelech, and it doesn't seem like he's really been the same since. I think Ryan Pulock is kind of the same, that pairing. I do wonder if they had the conversation, and I just feel bad for Pelech, frankly.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I'm sure the other guys have had this too, but I didn't really think much of him. This he's known for being a pretty rough and tumble customer. But more importantly, when he was acquired for a 7th round pick in early December of 2023, it was mainly because the man who you just mentioned, Ryan Pulock, was placed on IR. And Mike, I know this was a huge day for you. You have saved the picture of him being acquired, his arms out and celebrating a goal for the Blues. This was a trade that I don't know if a lot of people saw coming, but made a ton of sense at the time because the Islanders needed a defenseman. This guy is 35 years old. This is the kind of player that they go after. And for him to become an Islander is both weird and not weird at the same time, right?
Precisely. Yeah. It was almost like we should have just saw it coming. One of those things where we should have just had the jersey ready for him. And he comes over for that 7th round pick. Nobody even talked about it.
Right.
You could make a trade of 2. Nick Patan gets traded to the Leafs from the Jets, and that gets a 6 or 7 minute segment on like the mainstream hockey shows. But for some reason,
Frankie Corrado gets traded.
Right, exactly.
It's a huge deal.
We got to start the show with a transaction in the National Hockey League this year, as Marco Scandella gets traded for Nick Paton. Like just any trade gets talked about because they don't happen all that often, but this one didn't. And I thought it made a lot of sense across every level when they traded for him. Like you said, they needed this kind of player because of Mayfield and then Pollock getting hurt, and just the Islanders needed warm bodies. They get Mike Riley, they get Bortuzzo, and his first few games, like, they kind of go well, I think you would say. Yeah. I remember that game against the Kings in which they came back from a couple goal deficit in the third period, being particularly impressed with him especially towards the end of the game. Like, Lane Lambert was being psychotic or just being Lane Lambert, I guess. And like Bortuzzo was out there with Sam Bolduc playing like the last couple shifts of big games and such.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. We make this joke all the time when veteran players come in and out of the island. Like, Robert Bortuzzo walks into a locker room and he probably has a good idea. Like, oh, I know that's Bo Horvat. I know that's Matt Barzal. I hurt Brock Nelson, so I know who he is. I hurt Adam Pelech, so I know who he is. I played with this guy's play, whatever. And then he gets to like, I got no idea who the hell that guy is. Oh, that's your D partner. His name's Sam Bolduc. And boy, are you in for an adventure, man? Because I don't know. He sometimes this guy just plays for the other team. Like he just has a habit of just getting out there. He takes warm-ups with the Islanders, and then the next thing you know, he's a Columbus Blue Jacket. So just get ready for that. But yeah, I thought he played really well, and then he got hurt. Right. And when he got hurt, in the way he got hurt, everyone's like, "This, oh, it's done. His career is over."
Yeah.
And then he just Patrick Waugh comes and who's on the ice, and we're like, "Oh, look, Bortuzzo, that's cool, man. Like he's playing a little bit, getting on, maybe like rehabbing. He's around the team a little more. Oh God, he's gonna start playing again. Like this is crazy." So what an experience, and obviously we'll talk about the crowning moments of his Islander career soon, but. I really enjoyed the experience. I thought he sounded like a great guy, very funny.
Yeah.
It similarly, like we're talking about John McClane, like needed to overcome some intangible baggage to get to where he did. Bortuzzo hurting, and as John said, like Pelech hasn't been the same really since, which is really sad. And he hurt Nelson as well. For him to overcome, and when the Islanders were playing Bortuzzo on the Penguins, like that, I remember him being just like a nasty son of a bitch. Yeah, and those games were always had some teeth to them. So to go from a guy who was like not a hated player for sure, like not like on the, he wouldn't make the top 50 of like your most hated players in the NHL, but he was someone that every time the Islanders would play the Blues or something, you'd be like, God damn it, there's Bortuzzo, that prick. For him to be able to overcome that and become a kind of a beloved figure now is quite the accomplishment.
Well, he's definitely beloved now for that crowning moment that we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, he played 11 games for the Islanders and then got hurt and was placed on LTIR himself. Ironically, the same day they recalled Ken Appleby. And it looked like his career was over. But then on March 18th, he was reactivated off of LTIR, which in a way was crazy because Scott Mayfield was hurt now and they needed another body, particularly with the playoffs being a possibility at that point. And so all of a sudden Robert Bortuzzo went from being not on the Islanders to being surprisingly on the Islanders to being on LTIR and probably gone from the Islanders. And I tell you right now, as soon as he hit LTIR, people were like, oh, I can't wait for the Weird Islanders Robert Bortuzzo episode, because it just seemed like he was heading in that direction. But then the playoffs start and there's Bortuzzo and he ends up playing a really pivotal role. Yes, they lost in 5 games, but like, I thought he played pretty well. And those were probably the 5 best games he played for the Islanders. He wasn't really, too much of a sore thumb. He played as well as he could. And, there were a couple of games there where the Islanders outplayed the Hurricanes and lost the ridiculous bounces. But there is one moment that will stand out on the test of time, will stand the test of time for Robert Bortuzzo, New York Islander, Weird Islanders legend, and now Don Cutts Trophy winner as Weirdest Islander of the Year. John, where were you on April 27th, 2024? And how did you witness Robert Bortuzzo's game-winning assist in double overtime against the Carolina Hurricanes?
Now Shea had it taken away. Barzell with the puck. Good work by Horvat down low. Horvat from a tough angle. Now Bortuzzo with the drive. Score! Barzell crossing in front. The Islanders stay alive. Four seconds into the second overtime. Islanders win it 3-2.
Great work by Horvat below the goal line to possess it. Off the side of the net, it gets to the point to Bortuzzo, and Bortuzzo wastes no time. Right to the net. Looks like it may have gone off of Matt Barzell. I don't think either of them probably care. From the celebration, I think it's got to be Barzell's goal, but whoever gets it.
It's all about the W right now, right?
Exactly. It's all about the win. It's all about the hope that they now have. They grab game 4, and there's still hope for this Islander club.
I was at home and just beside myself. I thought he scored the goal.
Me too.
I think everyone did. And
Yeah.
so I was just like, of course it's this guy. That's how you cap off a season of, being the only Stanley Cup winner on the roster, taking the place of, I assume, Zdeno Chara, and I don't remember who before him. They need to have that guy. Lamoriello looks down the roster and, we need one guy. So at some point this season, we need to bring somebody in. That was, this year was Robert Bortuzzo. And yeah, I was beside myself. It was in a season and a series that was just aggravating and agonizing and frankly just weird. It was all over the place. Patrick Waugh shows up, and it just he epitomizes weird Islanders and a weird season of Islander hockey. So yeah, I was to say a little surprised, but that's kind of how it happens. If you think about playoff hockey and some of these goals that are scored, it is a lot of times a Robert Bortuzzo type that gets the goal, or plays a role in a game winner or something like that. So that's the maybe not weirdest part of his tenure with the Islanders is that he did that, because that happens all the time in the playoffs. But a weird Islander and a weird season.
Definitely. I'm with you. I thought that was his goal. And right now, as we speak, several weeks after that goal happened, I still wish it was his goal. No offense to Matt Barzell. He's scored overtime goals in the past. He'll score more overtime goals in the playoffs in the future, I'm sure. I needed this to be Robert Bortuzzo's goal because of the factors you just mentioned. Also, the fact that he had 0 points in his 23 regular season games with the Islanders. And here he was, 5 games in the playoffs. He has exactly 1 point. And if this is it for him, and he does move on, and again, he's 35, he's a UFA. The Islanders do have a number of defensemen. If anything, they have too many there. They need to sort that out. It's highly likely that he is not back. This man's 1 point for this organization will be a game-winning assist in overtime. And the only way that could have been better would have been if it was a game-winning goal in double overtime. So I really, really needed this to be his goal, but alas, Matt Barzell did get a tip on it. And I feel like I have both versions of the call here, both from TNT and MSG.
Here is Horvat trying to beat Chatfield, and Chatfield got just enough of him to stop him from getting to that puck. Now it's Barzell for Horvat. Horvat bending off Svechnikov. Horvat right in front off the paddle. Bortuzzo score! Matt Barzell! A tip in front, and the Islanders have forced game 5.
Give up as they got along. The Islanders chip it out. You got to watch in the middle of your screen. Horvat, watch the effort. Just kept his feet moving, and then Barzell is going to help out. Good job on the forecheck-in. They go back and forth a little bit. Not sure how it gets out to the point. Yeah, it's Horvat's going to just wire it out. It goes right out to Bortuzzo, and look at Barzell. Didn't stay behind the net. Brendan went to the front of the net.
And it sounded like both crews really thought it was his and maybe even kind of wanted it to be his. That Butch Goring definitely did, because this is one of his favorite players, the Twos, as he would call them. Probably the first time Robert Bortuzzo has ever been called the Twos. I don't think he has ever heard of John Matuszak, maybe, who was also the Twos. But to Butch Goring, he will always be the Twos. And to us, he will always be double overtime assist getter. And now, Don Cutts Award winner for Weirdest Islander of the Year 23-24, Robert Bortuzzo. It's an incredible accomplishment and something I hope he cherishes, and I hope somebody can tell him that he won Weirdest Islander of the Year for this season. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. I don't know what else is there to say about this guy. Like, I'm with you, Mike. He seemed like a cool guy. Like, he seems like a nice guy. He shaved his beard to come here. He could have been like, no, screw you. I'm not going there. I got a nice beard. But he came here, and it worked out pretty well.
I mean, he's been in St. Louis so long, so I'm sure he'll retire and like keep living there. But
probably,
it would not be a shock if all of a sudden he's part of that crew with side like. And I say that about everybody, like, but because he just had that personality that seems to really to play with this group, and on that goal, like, yeah, you wanted it to go down as Bortuzzo's goal, but I think what all three of us have kind of alluded to here, and Islander fans will remember, is like nobody's going to remember Matt Barzal with that goal. Like, nobody is. Everyone, it goes into the ledger as Matt Barzal's goal, but it really is Robert Bortuzzo's moment, right? And it was such a good moment to see. There were two great Islander images from the season that really, to me, kind of captured the season. And one of them was Simon Holmstrom helping Bortuzzo off the ice after his injury, because at that time it just felt like such a war of attrition for the Islanders just to get through a game. Something catastrophic and calamitous was happening every game, whether it was blown leads, people getting hurt, finishing games with like 4 defensemen, just all sorts of crazy stuff. The penalty kill not killing anything off, whatever it was. And to see Simon Holmstrom help this guy off the ice, be the guy who's like there to help him off the ice. I'm like, these guys don't know each other. Like, that's so funny to me that like this guy is helping who is another guy who's basically a stranger off the ice here. And then of course at the end was the Bortuzzo hug with Alex Romanov after that goal, which was just, I don't think anyone can wear joy the way that Romanov does. And just that was such a fun moment to have. So like, yeah, Bortuzzo in such a funny way just provided some really he provided moments for the Islanders. He played some very safe, boring hockey, didn't seem to take too many dumb penalties. He came as advertised. He was absolutely worth the risk of a 7th round pick, and a guy that honestly going to go down as just a guy, one of, not, of course he's not going to be one of our favorite Islanders, but just I don't think anyone who's an Islander fan is going to walk away from the Robert Bortuzzo experience and not like the guy at all. Like, you could say he wasn't the best player because he wasn't, but he gave us everything he had left. And I think that he kind of feels the same way too, right? He probably had no idea what it was like to be a New York Islander, or what the Islanders culture, what the Islanders fan base was about, but he found out, I think, in a good way, and he's going to remember us in the same way that we're going to remember him, which was incredible moment, a lot of fun. Can't believe it happened. Maybe in a couple of years from now we'll forget that it ever happened, but when he does remember the Islanders, he's going to have a smile on his face, and when we remember Robert Bortuzzo, we're going to have a smile on our face.
Definitely. He's definitely another guy who's going to enjoy Alumni Day when he gets invited back, for sure, and he's going to get a huge pop from the crowd. John, thank you so much for coming on with us again. We needed to get somebody on who understood the concept of the weirdest island of the year, and we couldn't have asked for anybody better because you get it. You're inherently on this wavelength with us. Any thoughts on Robert Bortuzzo, Islanders legend now, or any of the other weird Islander candidates that we've talked about tonight?
I do find it very funny to think about, Mike, that he just didn't know who the players were. And I picture him getting hurt, and he just sees a player and doesn't know Holmstrom's name, and just says, hey, 1-0, a little help.
Yeah. What's up, Ace? Like something like that. Like, hey.
Yeah. He just
Like
makes
Blondie.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just makes up a
Yeah,
name.
and then he's like lipping off, and Bo Horvat slaps him on the ass on the way downtown. He's like, "Who was that guy who helped me out again?
Exactly.
What was that guy's name? I want to buy him a watch or something."
Yeah, I find that infinitely funny that he just didn't know. And then maybe at a certain point, he just decided he just wasn't going to know. There's a TV show character that he's just like, I'm not going to learn any of it. I'm not going to be here long enough to remember anyone I don't already know. So whatever. I'm just going to ignore it.
Right. That's part of the fun of Bortuzzo too. Is like I feel like everybody was very upfront with how this arrangement was going to be. Right. Like, he was like, "I'm going to be here for a couple months. You guys are going to have me here for a couple months. We're not going to push. We're not going to force anything. This is just we'll just let the chips fall as they may." And they fell with him scoring or score quotes in quotations scoring a huge goal.
I'll ask one more question. A question, a little statement. I'm surprised it's not the Justin Papineau Award, given the lore you've created around this guy on this podcast.
I mean, we had a lot of good options. Like Papineau was another one. Somebody suggested we could name it the Patrick Waugh, because he's the weirdest, guy that we've had all year, and that's true. There were some other ones too, but it seemed like Don Cutts just seemed perfect, and I mean that was Mike's suggestion. Mine was the Garth McGuigan trophy because he's clearly the weirdest guy we have talked about on an episode. Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of this show, and I mean that's where we're at after 50 episodes is like we have given these guys hopefully a little bit of spotlight maybe years after they've played, and maybe not played to what they wanted to with the Islanders, what we thought they wanted to. And we talk about this all the time, like what do they think their legacy as Islanders are? And I think probably for the majority of the guys we've talked about, they don't think they have a legacy at all as Islanders. But as you can tell from guys like Justin Papineau, that they do. Like it's just kind of a weird thing that three guys just sat around on a Tuesday night or whatever it was talking about Justin Papineau for an hour. Meanwhile, this guy's gone on to live an entire life. I'm sure he's got a lovely family and friends and stuff, and probably doesn't think about the Islanders at all, but we still think about him, which is kind of weird.
This show is, it's a hockey podcast, which is already a punk rock sport. And it talks about the team that is arguably, the most underground of all of, all the bands. And then we're going through, the lineup of that one band that, some guy played on tour in one show in Arkansas or whatever. It perfectly encapsulates who the Islanders are as a team, like this concept, because it's been going on. And I know it's harder for some of the older players, although, Don Cutts making the cut, arguably the weirdest of all Islanders, if we're being honest. But, yeah, it's the show does a good job, and it's nostalgic. We did, my episode was Trevor Linden. Everyone has their kind of player or era that they go back to, and this show, and I going back each season will be fun. I look forward to listening to next year's episode of Who the Weirdest One, and I don't look forward to who that might be at the same time, because that might be really scary to think about now.
Yeah.
Right.
But
we know he's out. That's all. The only thing we have no idea who it will be, but we do know he's out there. And it is also worth saying that, like we talked about Mike Riley, and it seemed like if you were to ask us when Mike Riley showed up, is he going to be the weirdest Islander of the year? If we knew that this was going to be a concept, we'd probably say, "Oh, I was going to absolutely be." But now he could end up being, an Islander mainstay. So yeah, you just never know. You never know who's just going to come through that door and whatever. But it's it'll be fun. It'll be fun to find out who gets his name etched next to Robert Bortuzzo and under Don Cutts next year, because that player is out there. That player is certainly out there. I shudder to even make a guess off the top of my head. Like just throw a name out there, but
it is a true unknown. We have absolutely no idea.
It's almost not fun to guess these kind of things.
No,
just let it.
Oh, it's way too scary.
Way too scary. Yeah. But maybe we'll know soon when free agency rolls around, or maybe even in September. I have a feeling that there'll be some guys in camp or make it late in camp, and they're going to have that look. They're going to have the look, and people are going to be messaging me on Twitter being like, I can't wait to see this, hear this guy's, what episode of Weird Islanders, because it's possible, because people again had Bortuzzo pegged for a long time, and here we are. And again, this is probably this will be the last one time we talk about him. But if he isn't, even if he re-signs, he's still at this point clearly a Weird Islander, and I think he was his win here was very justified, and I think people will go back and think of him even if he plays as a pretty Weird Islander. But Jon, thanks again for coming on. This has been great. So you guys are going to do a season finale, right? At some point, you and James. I didn't even realize you guys hadn't done one yet. I thought I listened to the last one.
Yeah, James had his second kid, and then not long after I started my little project, so it just didn't line up. And we'll do one at some point. I've been I have been trying to think about it so I don't because this is a season I'd like to forget.
Yeah, no kidding.
And just it seemed like, and Mike, I feel like this is a comment that you would make because you're read on these types of things. There's a CIA manual on simple sabotage, like a field manual, but like the things you should do to like make an organization fall apart. And I feel like the Islanders read it this year, and about just like, bring up irrelevant things, and that's like bringing in a player that like, who's Robert Bortuzzo? Why is he here? Why is this happening? And that's, I've been trying to tie that together and create something. So I just I'm happy to get this conversation under my belt so that I'm a little bit the skids are greased a little bit for that conversation. But we'll try to do it at some point. I may just try to find a moment to fire up the desktop somehow and get everything plugged in to make it happen, because I want it to be a good episode. I want to do it justice, but it may be closer to the season. It may be around July 1st or a little bit after, maybe when Lamoriello, I don't know. What is the saying? Everyone, he has contracts in the drawer. So maybe a week after July 1st or whenever he decides to take them out, we'll try to do an episode then.
I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'll listen to it whenever you guys put it out. Congrats to James and his family. Everybody, obviously, check out Nassaumen. Subscribe to it wherever you can. Same places you can find us, obviously, everywhere, right? Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff. But Jon, thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime.
Sign up at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety for ad-free episodes and bonus content. Follow us on Twitter at IslandersAnxietyPod. Our theme song is Knuckles by Bjorn Falk. Listen to more of his music at Bandcamp and at Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Learn more at fansfirstsports.com. Shop vintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Read and listen to his work at Action Network. We have 2 more episodes of Weird Islanders, the podcast, this season. One coming up in a couple of weeks. And then our live episode from Offside NYC just before the week before the draft. It's coming out, June, whatever. So our season is almost over, but these have all been really great. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening for the last 50 episodes. I can't believe we are here. I can't believe we've gotten to, this list is enormous. It's incredible that most podcasts actually end up kind of dying out after I think 3 episodes is the average or something like that. But to have one podcast be nearing 400 episodes and then another one be 50, and then we have the mailbags and all that stuff as well, is really, really something very special. And we really thank you all for listening so much. So we would do this with us, but it would just be two lunatics talking. But the fact that like we have people that listen to us and are like, oh my God, I was thinking the same thing, really is both scary, but also endearing at the same time. And so we thank you so much for doing that. Mike, any final thoughts on 50 episodes of Weird Islanders, the podcast?
No, it's I look forward to the next 50. We've gone from Brian Ralston and Thomas Vanek and Chris Osgood to Robert Bortuzzo with some real special players mixed in between. So who knows who the next 50 will be, and who will join us to talk about them, because it does feel like maybe the over these next 50 is when this show goes full self-actualization, and we get to have a Weird Islander come on talking about being a Weird Islander. And I know we had Justin Bourne, but I'm talking like a Weird Islander.
Yeah,
talking about being a Weird Islander. So that's my goal for the next 50. Thank you everyone for being around for the first 50 though.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you all to our great guests, including Jon Zella. Thank you all for coming on. And to those that have ghosted me, go to hell. And hopefully that ends as well. And we can get, like you said, an actual Weird Islander on next year. But thank you again for listening. And we'll be talking to you again in a couple of weeks. Until then, keep the Islanders weird. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.